Good morning, Doc Wen. Good morning, classmates. I am Lori Fel Hamamoto, and I am currently stationed at Manolo Fortich National High School in Manolo Fortich, Bukidnon. With me with this topic is Ma'am Jeneline Atasan, and together we are going to discuss the DepEd Order 002 series of 2022, which is the interim guidelines on private schools, voluntary closures, and participation in government assistance. So this is now the content of DepEd Order 002 series of 2022. Number 1. The Department of Education upholds the right of every Filipino to quality basic education. By providing access, whether through public or private educational institutions, DepEd, pursuant to its constitutional mandate, maintains and supports a complete, adequate, and integrated system of education relevant to the needs of the people and society. As such, it exercises reasonable supervision and regulation of all educational institutions in the basic education sector. Number 2. DepEd recognizes the complementary roles of public and private educational institutions in the educational system. Through the GAS or the Government Assistance and Subsidies, DepEd provides financial support aimed at ensuring the private education remains a viable option for learners. This contributes to the overall goals of improving access to quality basic education. Number 3. Given the unprecedented crisis brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, existing policies on private school regulation as well as guidelines on the government assistance program must be reviewed and, if necessary, amended for this to be relevant and responsive to the needs of private schools and in support of the basic education amidst the pandemic. The effects of the continuing COVID-19 are expected to pose a significant challenge to the operations of private schools and the continued participations of school learners and teachers in the government assistance programs, namely the ESC, the teacher salary subsidy, and the senior high school voucher program. So these are the programs that might have a consequential effect if the school closes. So in view of this, a DepEd Order number 39 series of 2020 titled Special Provisions on High School Voluntary Closures and Participation in Government Assistance and Subsidies in light of the COVID-19 pandemic was issued effective school year 2020 to 2021 only. Number 4. Given the continuing effects of the COVID-19 pandemic in the education sector, the special provisions are issued. And this is to amend pertinent provisions of DepEd Order 88 series of 2010 titled 2010 Revised Manual of Regulation for Private Schools in Basic Education and its existing issuances of the Government Assistance and Subsidies Program to its beneficiaries effective school year 2021 to 2022. Number 5. Sections 35, 36, and 43 of DepEd Order 88 series of 2010 as amended, specifically on the voluntary closures of private schools and the implications of the voluntary closures on their authority to operate are amended and clarified as follows. Letter A. A private school that intends to voluntarily suspend operations for school year 2021 to 2022 shall submit a notice of temporary closure to the DepEd Regional Office supervising its area by January 31st of 2022. A school that suspends operations for school year 21 to 22 but does not comply with the requirements for temporary closure by March 31st of 2022 shall be assumed to be permanently closed, and the corresponding provisions on permanent closure will apply. Letter B. The notice of temporary closure shall clearly indicate that the school will not operate only for school year 2021 to 2022 and shall contain the following. Number 1. Clearly articulated reason or reasons for the 1-year suspension of operations. Number 2. Evidence that parents or guardians and learners were properly informed of the temporary closure, such as virtual assembly that was called by the school or the school sending a letter circular via email. Number 3. Action taken or arrangement made to assist parents or guardians and learners and school personnel affected by the temporary closure. Example, mapping of nearby school where the learners can transfer to, or perhaps giving school personnel other temporary work that may help them while the school is not in operation. Number 4. Plan for the resumption of operations in school year 2022 to 2023. Letter C. The private school shall work closely and actively with the DepEd Regional Office in facilitating the transfer of records of learners affected by the temporary closure, as well as other arrangement necessary for a smooth transition that will ensure affected stakeholders are not unduly disenfranchised by the temporary closure. Letter D. A private school with government recognition that subjects itself to temporary closure in school year 2020 to 2021 and/or school year 2021 to 2022 shall not lose its government recognition provided that it resumes operation in school year 2022 to 2023 and continues to satisfy the requirements for the government recognition. Letter E. A private school with a permit to operate that subjects itself to temporary closure in school year 2020 to 2021 and/or school year 21 to 22 shall have its permit to operate automatically renewed provided that it resumes operation in school year 2022 to 2023 and continue to satisfy the requirements for issuance of permit to operate. Letter F. Private schools that will temporarily close the school year 2021 to 2022 and reopen next school year are required to submit a letter to the regional office signifying their intent to resume operations in school year 2022 to 2023 no later than March 31st of 2022. For private schools with a permit to operate, such communication will trigger the issuance by the regional office of a renewed permit to operate effective for school year 2022 to 2023, provided that the school continues to satisfy the requirements for issuance of a permit to operate. Letter G. Private schools that did not operate in school year 2020 to 2021 and still will not operate in school year 2021 to 2022 must undergo the same above-mentioned process for temporary closure in school year 2021 to 2022. Letter H. Private schools that will not operate for more than 2 school years, starting school year 2020 to 2021, shall be guided by the provisions on permanent closures in DepEd Order 88 Series of 2010 as amended and other applicable DepEd guidelines. Number 6 of DepEd Order 002. Private schools that will operate the school year 2021 to 2022 are expected to have complied with the requirements under DepEd Order 013, Series of 2020, or the Readiness Assessment Checklist for Learning Delivery Modalities in the Learning Continuity Plan of Private Schools, and the DepEd Order 17, Series of 2020, or the additional provisions to DepEd Order number 013, Series of 2020. Number 7, for private schools that are found to be operating without the necessary government authority, example government recognition or permit to operate and provisional compliance certificate for school year 2021 to 2022, the regional office shall apply the provisions on the involuntary closure of violating schools. Number 8, GAS participating private schools or the government assistance subsidies participating private schools that will implement DepEd authorized alternative learning delivery modalities in school year 2021 to 2022 shall be eligible to continue participation in the government assistance subsidies programs. And that is the first half of the DepEd Order 002 series of 2022. I will now give you my partner, Miss Jeneline Atasan, to continue with our report. Thank you so much for listening. Happy Sunday and God bless us all.